Welcome everybody to Diamond Secrets Revealed, where you're gonna get the dirt on diamonds. My name is Jennifer Wyszynski. I am a GIA gemologist, jewelry designer, and appraiser for Rejuvenated Designs, and I am your diamond expert. So any diamond questions, come to me and I will be happy to answer them. And today we're going to be talking about how to tell the difference between a real versus a fake diamond or look-alike. So maybe you've been spring cleaning, especially since diamond is April's birthstone, and April is the beginning of spring, right? And we're all like that fresh start. So maybe you're discovering some jewelry you have around the house. Maybe you've lost it. Maybe you haven't worn it in a long time, or maybe you just found a stone on the floor or a stone somewhere out in the world, and you're wondering how you can tell if that stone that you found is real or fake. Recently, actually, a friend called me up and he found this big colorless stone, and he's like, Jen, did I just find a diamond? Can I retire now and go to some beautiful island and just live off this find for the rest of my life? So I walked him through some steps to see if it was actually a diamond that he found. And these are the steps that I'm going to tell you so that you can discover for yourself whether you have something real or you have something fake. So the average person really doesn't think about diamonds too often or spend time looking at them, right? Maybe when you first get that engagement ring, you're staring at it all the time. You're showing other people, right? So only at the time where you're actually buying them do you really look at it, examine it, and really try to figure out if it's right for you and if you should invest in a diamond. So that is really why I wanted to help you to prepare and learn all you need to know to be more knowledgeable when shopping for something so personal and so valuable as a diamond. So how does the everyday person tell if a clear stone is a real diamond or a simulant? So what is a simulant? Well, a simulant is not the same as a synthetic. A simulant can be man-made or found in nature, so natural. And the only thing that it has in common with a diamond is that it looks like the stone due to similar color or some other similar optical or visual characteristic. A synthetic, on the other hand, is a man-made gemstone that is made in a laboratory with the same chemical composition. So if it was replicating diamond or a synthetic diamond, it would be made out of carbon, just how diamond is made out of carbon, and the same crystal structure. So the atoms will form the same, and it will be cubic in nature for diamond, for example. So since it has the same chemical composition and same chemical makeup, it will have the same optical properties or visual properties that you'll see in a natural diamond. So synthetic is really the same, but man-made as the natural counterpart, whereas a simulant just looks like that counterpart, but doesn't have any of the same chemical or physical characteristics as diamond. So what might be some lookalikes to diamond? There is the popular cubic zirconia, which people refer to as CZ. Synthetic moissanite has become more and more popular. Colorless topaz, rock crystal quartz, you see a lot of. Colorless sapphire. Not a lot of people know about colorless sapphire, but sapphire does come colorless. And of course, there's glass and plastic that comes clear. So there used to be others, but they're really not as popular anymore, basically because it's too fragile or scratches or really doesn't look like a diamond so much and wasn't high in demand. So they stopped manufacturing a lot of those. So let's talk about the natural simulants. So the colorless lookalikes that are found in nature. So this is things like colorless topaz, rock crystal quartz, and colorless sapphire. So in order to tell that it is natural gemstones will have a cut that aren't really as perfect. And since their brilliance, scintillation, and dispersion are lacking, like they don't have the same as diamond, the cut really doesn't matter as much because there's no ideal cut. Colorless stones or colorless natural stones are very white and very colorless throughout. There is no tint of yellow or brown or gray, things that you will find in diamonds because of trace elements. All of the natural simulants are softer than diamond, so you'll see many scratches. You may see rounded facets and rounded by the girdle. So facets are actually these flat, triangular, or kite-shaped shapes that make up the cut of the stone, and the facets are actually the lines. So since it's soft, they'll have a little bit of a rounded line there, and the girdle, which is the edge, will be rounded as well. It won't be sharp like you'll find in diamond. There's a property due to the refractive index that causes the dispersion or those rainbow colors. So since colorless simulants have a less refractive index, they won't have any dispersion or visible rainbow colors. These gemstones are usually free of inclusions, so you won't find the inclusions that you'll find in a natural diamond. Especially to the naked eye, it will be inclusion free. They have a lower hardness than diamond. Diamond has a hardness of 10, which is the highest of any gemstone. So since it has a lower hardness, it has less of a shine. So if you angle it where the light hits the facets, it won't be as sharp of a reflection. It will look glassy. Since this stone is actually glass, it will look glassy like this stone. If you do not know how to use a loupe or a microscope, this can actually help you see some things like polish lines, and this is when gemstones are cut. So polish lines are when a cutter places those facets on the gemstone, so these triangular kite-shaped facets on the gemstone. And with colored stones, since it's softer, they have to cut it first and then polish it. So usually they're polishing in the same direction. So if you see things like polish lines, which are little lines that are left on the surface, it will actually go through facet junctions. So you can see them go all across the stone, since they're doing one process and then another. With diamonds, they're cutting and polishing at the same time, so that the polish lines will be confined to just the facet. It won't cross any facet junctions. And that's if you're a little bit more knowledgeable about faceting and polishing, and if you can see this through some sort of magnification. So these colorless stones are very popular for rings and other trendy jewelry because not only will it look like a big diamond, right? So who wouldn't want to wear something that looks like a big diamond, but it will be much more affordable. So these natural stones will be set in real gold, especially if you're in a nice jewelry store or if it's a designer name. If you put it on and you see your skin through the stone, that's really your first clue that it's not a diamond. With a natural diamond, you won't see your skin through it. So you want to be wary of that. Second, it's very rare to see a very large diamond because of the rarity in large sizes. And third, you may also tell from the price. So think about it. If you have a large colorless stone in a mounting and it's only a few $100s, it is most likely not a diamond. And if it was, it would have so many eye visible inclusions. The cut will be wanky, cut all over the place, not symmetrical at all. And, you know, it would be very, very, very poor quality. And it probably won't even be colorless at that point. So as for glass, this is a man-made material, and it will have all of the same detections as I talked about in the natural stones, the natural simulants. It will have scratches, rounded facets, glassy shine, no dispersion or rainbow colors, and it's most likely flawless. But it may have gas bubbles inside, which looks like a round donut. So a perfect circle with a perfect circle inside. And it has to be a perfect circle to be a gas bubble or one of those donut inclusions. And that is a true key that it is glass. That is how you tell if it's glass from a gemstone. Because a natural gemstone can have liquid inclusions, which look like a donut, but it's more elongated. So when it's elongated, it's actually a liquid inclusion, and that would be a natural stone. But glass usually is not set in precious metal, or maybe not even in silver. It may be used for a very cheap accessory like a hairpin or a belt buckle, you know, something like that. They most likely will be glued in and may even have a foil backing. So this is something that's silver that they actually back the stone. They attach to the back of the stone so that you won't be able to see through it, and it'll give it a little bit more sparkle to it, give it a little bit more shine. And foil backing glass was used back in the Victorian period, so a long time ago. And so this was in the late 19th century. So things like synthetics and simulants have been around for a long time. So just because the piece is old doesn't mean it's actually a diamond. It can be a simulant. So one of the most popular diamond simulants that you see today is the cubic zirconia, or CZ as it's usually called. And this you'll find in a lot of costume jewelry and fashion jewelry. And what's been trendy is to actually make CZ travel jewelry, which is actually replica jewelry that you bring with you when you travel, so that you feel safer wearing jewelry. And then if you lose it, or if it gets stolen or something like that, you know, then you really didn't lose much. You know, you don't want any of that to happen, but, you know, if you're making it in CZ and silver, then it's a very low investment than if you're wearing your big diamonds or your diamond jewelry while you travel. So this is just for safety precautions. So you'll find the fashion and travel jewelry set in gold or in silver, and it may or may not have a stamp that says CZ in it. So you want to be on the lookout to see if it says CZ inside the ring or on the CZ itself. So for costume, they are usually set in silver or any other type of base metal, and they will be set similar to diamonds. So they'll be set in prongs, maybe they'll be pave set, bezel set, channel set, however diamonds are set. These cubic zirconias will be set similar to that. So the colorless CZ are very white, so they'll look like the highest color of diamond, which is D. So, and they'll have no inclusions. So they'll be high color, high clarity. No inclusions, very high colorless factor. No tints of any other color, unless it's a colored CZ. You can have colored CZs, but we're talking about colorless. So they'll be perfect in shape and in symmetry. So diamonds were cut so as not to waste any kind of natural material. So a diamond can be out of round or not symmetrical, or not have a great length to width ratio, not have a pleasing shape. But a CZ will usually model the ideal cut, and fancy shapes will be very symmetrical, have the ideal length to width ratio, be the most appealing and aesthetically pleasing shape that it comes in. The girdle, which is the edge of the stone, will look waxy, kind of like wax paper, and it will be perfectly faceted, and each section of the girdle will have the same thickness to it. With a natural diamond, you can have thin areas and thick areas and thin areas, and so it won't necessarily be a perfect girdle thickness throughout that stone. Again, because it depends on who the cutter is. If they're going for ideal cut or hearts and hours and things like that, it will have a more aesthetically pleasing girdle. But this is something that is a sign that it could be a cubic zirconia. CZ is an 8.5 on the Mohs scale, so it is softer than diamond. So the facets may be abraded and will have a slight roundness to it. And since it is softer, that luster, so when the light is reflected onto the facets, it won't be as crisp and sharp as diamond. And it is slightly heavier. It's 1.6 times the weight of diamond. So with the same weight on the scale, so if you're putting it on the scale, the CZ will look actually smaller than the diamond of the same weight. Cubic zirconia has a higher refractive index, so this means that it has slightly more eye visible dispersion. So when you have a high refractive index, the more rainbow colors you see reflecting off of the surface of that stone. So CZ actually has more dispersion or more rainbow colors reflecting off of it than diamond does. And under certain lighting, you may even see these rainbow reflections when looking through the stone that you won't find in diamond. Diamond stays gray or white or brown, maybe a little bit of yellow. So you'll see the body color, but you won't see that rainbow reflection coming through the diamond or from the pavilion facets or from the bottom facets. So a big clue when you're buying is the price, definitely. And at home, the best tests for a lay person would be the see-through test. So that is to put the stone that you find face down on something that's printed. So I'll get something. So face down on something that's printed, and then you can see the words right through it. So if it is a diamond, you won't be able to see any kind of printing through the stone. So that is the first and best test to do right away. And this is what I told my friend when he found that big stone. I said, put it on a printed piece of paper and see if you see any lines or words through it. And unfortunately he did, so he didn't get to retire to that remote beach somewhere. And the second will be the fog test. So this is to actually give a big huff like this onto your stone. So a cubic zirconia will stay foggy for about 5 seconds, and a diamond will stay foggy for about 1 to 2 seconds. So if you give a big huff like that, see how long that fog lasts for. If it's longer, then it is usually a cubic zirconia. So let's talk about another very popular diamond simulant, which is the synthetic moissanite. So it's taken a while for synthetic moissanite to warm up to the general public, to use in engagement rings and to use in jewelry. So some people are really considering synthetic moissanite as a diamond replacement in an engagement ring because it is a little bit cheaper, a little bit more affordable. And synthetic moissanite has become more colorless through the times now that they're able to bring it more to DEF colors like a diamond. Back in the day, it used to be more yellow or a little bit of more green, so it really wasn't appealing for mainstream jewelry. They do have a hardness very close to diamond at 9.5, so they have a very high luster, and luster again is when the light reflects. It will be quite sharp, and the diamond and the faceting will be quite sharp as well. There'll be very little scratches, and like I said, they've gotten a lot better and will look close to diamond in color, and they're getting better with clarity as well. So they have started grading synthetic moissanite in color and clarity ranges like they do diamond. They also have a very high refractive index, making them much more dispersive than diamond or CZ. So it's the most dispersive gemstone there is. So that fire or dispersion, those rainbow colors of moissanite is about 2.5 times that of a diamond. So it is over the top sparkly, over the top with rainbows. Sometimes it's a little bit blinding. So that's your first sign that it isn't a diamond, because diamond, like I was saying, the dispersion is less than CZ, and then moissanite is more than both of them. Synthetic moissanite also has another optical property, which is called doubly refractive. So when light goes in, it actually splits into 2 rays. So this causes a little bit of doubling when you look inside the diamond, and you can see the facets actually double. So you may see the stone as a little bit blurry with your naked eye. The doubling, you may need a microscope or a loupe to see. So those facet junctions will look like parallel lines. So the one line doubling to form the other line. So this also gives it much more scintillation and sparkle. So you'll see the doubling and you'll see the over-the-top sparkle. At GIA, we actually used to heat the moissanite with a match, because when you heat it with a match, it turns like this bright yellow, and when it cools, it returns back to the original color. But I don't recommend doing this at home. It was just something we used to do when we were younger. You know, you do things like that when you're younger. So they are a synthetic, so they have no naturals, so no skin from the original rough, and are usually cut to perfect or ideal proportions. So anything too perfect, you want to be a little bit wary of. And if it is a perfect diamond or something that looks too perfect in color, clarity, and cut, things like that, you will expect to have some sort of certification along with that from a reputable lab like GAA. So, because something that is high in color, clarity, cut will be very valuable. So if you are the diamond dealer or the wholesaler, you'll want proof of this. So you'll give it to a unbiased, ethical lab, something like Gemological Institute of America, to certify that you have such a stone, that it is a natural diamond, and everything like that. So if it's something that's too perfect, like a synthetic moissanite that is a D, flawless with excellent proportions, it won't have a certification, or it might just say that it's a moissanite and these are its color and clarity. So it will tell you that it's a moissanite. So a reputable store will tell you or disclose what the gemstone is. But this is just something if you find it laying around in your house or something like that. Synthetic moissanite is about 1/5 the price of natural diamond. So this makes it a lot more affordable, but it has no resale value if you ever plan to sell it. So don't buy a moissanite if you don't plan to keep it. That's basically what it comes down to. So the main giveaway for synthetic moissanite is that it has the over-the-top dispersion and scintillation, and also that doubling or a little bit of a blurry look to it. So now we're up to the king of gems, the diamond. So diamond is the hardest natural material, and it is a 10 on the Mohs scale of hardness, making it harder than every other gemstone. And it doesn't mean that it cannot be scratched or chipped. So really keep that in mind. It can be scratched, it can be chipped, but mainly from being in contact with other diamonds. So diamond will scratch diamond. So when you store it, you don't want to keep it in a little baggie or anything with other diamonds where they're rubbing against each other or hitting against each other, because they will chip and they will scratch with other diamonds. So this creates three main distinguishing factors from the other stones that we talked about. So diamonds will be free of scratches, like I said, unless they're rubbing against other diamonds. The hardness gives it its luster, which is called adamantine. And diamond has the highest luster of any other gemstone. So if you reflect the light onto the stone, so rock and tilt it until the light reflects off of the table usually, because it's the biggest facet and you can see it the best, it gives it a very sharp light reflection or luster, and you'll see very sharp, crisp facet junctions, so where these facets meet. Diamonds can only be polished by diamond, and it has what's called directional hardness. So each facet is polished one at a time, so it's cut and polished at the same time, and usually in a different direction. So if it does have those polished lines, it will be contained to just that facet. And a cutter also may put an extra facet, so which is a facet that doesn't belong in that pattern. So usually it's around the girdle area or on the bottom area. And this is to improve the clarity. So if there was a internal characteristic very close to the surface, the cutter will polish an extra facet to bring the clarity a little bit higher up, because then they get more money from something that's a higher clarity versus something that's a little bit lower in symmetry, which doesn't affect the cost as much as clarity issues. So a CZ or other simulants won't have these extra facets. It will just have the nice round brilliant, or however it's cut, pattern to it. It won't just have a facet put somewhere out of nowhere like a diamond might. Some other things to look for is, like I said, the girdle of the diamond. It may be frosty, which means it looks very sugary, or it could be unpolished, again have that frosting appearance. It may be thick and thin in places, so it won't be even, and it may have an inscription from a lab. So if it does have some sort of GIA certificate, then the lab may have inscribed the number on the girdle, and that's a great identifying mark, because you can also look up that GIA number on GIA's website and actually pull up a copy of that certificate, and you can get all the information that you need. Since diamonds are part of nature, they have a rough skin, and diamond cutters might leave some of this skin on to show that they got the most weight from that rough diamond. So this rough skin is called a natural, and you'll see the natural usually by the girdle. It could be on the girdle, below, above, so around the girdle's edge, because a natural rough diamond is usually an octahedron. So it has a square base. So when you're cutting a round out of a square, you might see a natural in one spot or in every 90 degrees, so in 4 spots. So this is to show that the cutter has used the most amount of surface possible by leaving those naturals on. So they made the biggest stone possible. So when you're cutting a round out of a square, that's what happens when you get the most out of that particular rough surface. So sometimes it could look a little bit flat in that particular area. And again, this is to get the biggest stone. And when it weighs more, usually you'll get more money from it. So a diamond may not be perfectly round or perfectly shaped in the fancy styles. And this is especially true for older cuts like old European and old mine cuts that look more cushion shaped. Cut was not really an issue as it is today, where everybody wants XXX, so excellent cut, polished symmetry, or ideal cut, or even the hearts and arrows. And only a diamond will show that hearts and arrows optical property. No other diamond simulant or look-alike will make those hearts and arrows. Unless it's a D color, diamonds will have a tint of yellow or brown or maybe gray. Diamonds do come in other colors, but we're just talking about colorless for now. Most have natural inclusions, which can be black, can be white, can be colorless, can be yellow, red, or green types of inclusions, because you can get other gemstones actually trapped, gemstone crystals actually trapped within the diamond, which actually are pretty cool. Diamonds do fluoresce under ultraviolet light. So 25 to 30% will fluoresce blue, yellow, or white under this ultraviolet long wave light. The other stones we talked about will not, but CZ will be more of a greenish yellow under long wave ultraviolet light. It won't have blue. Diamonds do chip, and if they do, inside the chip, it will have a step-like pattern, so like stairs, because of its cubic structure, where all other colorless stones will have a rounded pattern like chipped glass. So if you've seen glass chipped and it has a little scoop out, then that's more of a simulant or even glass. So there is a test with water, but this really doesn't work since all of these simulants are heavier than water. Diamond is heavier than natural simulants except for sapphire, and will sink and will sink. And CZ is heavier than diamond, so they'll sink too. So maybe only glass or plastic will float slightly in this kind of water test, so I really don't recommend it. I also wouldn't recommend any kind of destructive tests like sandpaper or lighting the stone, like I was saying, with fire and dropping it into cold water, because a lot of things with temperature extremes can actually chip or break or crack a stone. So you don't want to try it in case it was some other stone that you kind of liked and you don't want to ruin it. The first and easiest test to do at home is the read-through test, like I explained earlier, if the mounting allows it, or if you have a loose stone, it's good for a loose stone to just put it on top of that printed paper, and you can see it right away. The second is the fog test, and so these two tests are the fastest and most reliable things to do at home. So if you find something at home, first clean them thoroughly, because dirt and oils will change the optical properties. You want to use an overhead light. And if you have something you know is a diamond, because you always want to compare something of unknown to something of known, then you can compare the reflection and the luster and facet junctions to see which is sharper. And if they're the same, then you probably have a diamond. With the light overhead, use a magnifying glass or some sort of loupe or something magnifying to look for inclusions inside the stone from the top. Then look around that girdle, so around the girdle for naturals, extra facets, an inscription from a lab, and if it is frosted or has sharp facets, all signs of diamonds. And of course, the best and easiest thing is to bring it to an expert. So if you have any questions or need help, feel free to contact me, and I will be honored and happy to help with any kind of diamond concerns or questions. So that's it for now, and I will see you in the next Diamond Secrets Revealed talk. See you later.